Institute taking questions. So, what was your question today?
My question is more of, I guess personally for me, and I know you deal a lot with magnetics. So my question is regarding activation of sacred sites, because it's talked about a lot lately, and there's a lot of people on this planet that are, working to activate, and that have been called to activate. And, they use a lot of times using energy or visuals or the feeling or, just even the vortexes and the ley lines and the energy of the earth, really. So I kind of wanted to see what your take is on that and what you feel about that.
Yeah, it's a very important thing, the earth. We take so much from the earth in so many ways that indigenous cultures and traditional societies were always giving back. And as technology grows and humanity's connection to nature becomes harder to access, it's very important to go to those places and to help reconnect them. I think in many ways, we're reconnecting as much for ourselves as we are for the planet. Because when we connect for ourselves, it puts us in a wider awareness, and that helps the planet to run the energy through us. The big part of the reason that our world is so divided is because we're not connected to the earth. And a lot of religious and political divisiveness comes from people's not being connected for themselves. And so people who are doing energy work or spiritual people who are trying to wake up, it's a very big responsibility for us to reconnect to the earth in any way that we can, and to carry that reconnection out into the world. So yeah, I would definitely encourage that. There are some times where people, in trying to connect to sacred sites, they end up creating more disturbance. And that's, like now they have to cut Stonehenge off because too many people want to go up and touch the rock, so they have to keep people at a distance. So there's a fine line. I'll give you another example. Around in Sedona, there's what's called cryptobiotic soil, which is living soil. And it takes hundreds of years for it to grow this much. And they look literally like little cathedral rocks. But if you look down at them, you would think it was just black earth and maybe moss, and they get stepped on all the time because people don't know. They go to these places, these sacred places, to reconnect to the earth, and they're destroying and they're going. So in going to reconnect, it's very important to understand the impact we have on it, so that we are not creating as much problem as we are trying to help. And that is something that humanity, it happens to us all the time. There's a cliche, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Is sometimes we can do deeper reconnection to sacred sites inside of our heart anywhere. And we don't necessarily have to go to those places. But by having a picture of them, having really deep visualization and sending energy to them, it's possible to connect to those sites without necessarily having to go to them. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to them. I'm just saying sometimes it's not possible to go to them, and sometimes going to them is more problematic. And it doesn't mean you still can't give energy to them. Ultimately, on the mind level, the deeper we go in consciousness, the more we feel a connection with everything.
Right.
And so, who said it? I think it was the Tao Te Ching. Without opening my door, I open my heart to the world. Without leaving my hometown, I've traveled everywhere. So the real journey is purely inside. So it's important to go to those places, but understand that you can connect with them by being more here.
Right. And do you think by doing it visually with your heart, you have to have your Merkaba activated to do that?
No, I think that definitely helps. I don't think that there's, with energy, there is no points where it's like it's activated, then it's not activated.
Right.
Things wax and wane like the moon, and some days our connection to it is more clear and it appears to be more active. But I don't necessarily think that we're more activated. I think some days the energy is just more tangible to sense.
Right.
And on days that it's not, that's not a bad thing. It's just a matter of, see, we live in a very dualistic society, and what that means is that we see opposites and we set them against each other. In Eastern forms of thought, or primarily Taoism and Buddhism, they see opposites as being in a dance, not as being in a conflict. They even see conflict as being in a dance, and conflict itself as being a display of energy. And so when we see something about a place that is good or bad, or like you go to a sacred place and then you see the disrespect that goes on in some of them, those ideas are only in us, and we can reconcile that duality inside of ourselves. We can't reconcile it out here.
Right.
Like you can't go and fix the sacred place because there's more energy that the next day it'll look just like it does now.
Yeah.
So the reconciliation happens inside of us. And I think that's a big thing that it gets thrown around a lot in the New Age about how the whole universe is inside of us. But if we really understood the immensity of that, we would be awakened.
Right.
We would really, if we really understood that, we would be awakened, and we wouldn't chase as many things, places and situations. We have this idea that, Pema Chodron said, one of the traits of humanity is things will be better when ...
Right.
And the fact is that things will never be better than now.
Yeah.
And now never ends.
Yeah.
And now doesn't change. What changes is our experiences of now, but now is always the same.
Right. But do you think there's a reason why so many people are having the visions and being called to activate these sides? Do you think it's the Gaia herself that's wanting us to activate?
Yeah, I do. I do think that.
Again, because we're so off balance.
Yeah, I do think that.
Yeah.
But because I focus so much on questions, I won't settle on that thought. I'll question that thought and try to understand it on other levels. Just because if I settle on that, I may be excluding other realities.
Right.
And I don't really know what it means. What does Gaia mean? We say that, but in reality, we're just really germs on this enormous body.
Yeah.
And how she creates and destroys is way beyond our understanding. And humanity is very egocentric in the way that we relate to everything in relation to us. And nature, on the level that she's working at, she'll wipe out 1 million species and not blink an eye.
Yeah.
And so that higher level creation and destruction is happening way beyond our comprehension. So I think our job is to try to rise to that understanding.
Instead of getting caught up
in good and bad,
Right.
and what appears to be negative, or You know, the more we're grounded in this moment and constantly connecting to the earth, the more we are expanding our perceptions.